Diversity in the room, and the one thing I want to say is you're all in business. Congratulations, because it's been hard. It's been very hard. The world that we live in is not the same world that we seem to have stability in. So we got to be top managers, whether we're in the producing of dairy or you're a consultant or whatever. It's serious business. So, with that said, a little background, what qualifies me to speak in front of you besides being the owner of King's Agri-Seeds. I grew up in a dairy farm, a large dairy farm in Lancaster County at the time. Now it would be considered very small. I went to Penn State for agronomy, went out to Washington State, got another degree in agronomy, weed science, weed ecology type stuff, and I was a forage TA, teaching assistant. And I worked for Penn State University for 9 years doing dairy and agronomy work, trying to bridge the gap between the agronomy and dairy, and that's where the money's actually made, okay? So I did that for 9 years. Decided to join my family's business for 2 years. We relocated a dairy from Lancaster to Springfield, Tennessee on the Kentucky border. So that was 2 years. I basically helped my brother set it up, and then I returned to Penn State to work on farm management, and that was essentially projections, financial projections. Okay? So I really loved that job doing financial projections, and that's where things really started to come together on how to make money in the farm. And there's more than one way to make money in a farm, and there's more than one way to lose money in a farm. Okay? It's a very complex business. To run a farm is difficult. Okay? Let's all acknowledge it. So we got an industry that it takes some smarts to get through. So with that said, congratulations for doing that. By the way, after the Penn State experience, I got the Penn State Farm Management, I got into the seed industry. So I had 21 years in the seed industry to date, and it's been wonderful. And the seed industry, because King's Agri-Seeds is focused on forages, just kind of everything just came together, and I appreciate that. Harrison, I forgot to ask you the knives. Did you bring the knives in? Okay. I'm going to transition into a little bit of forage history. And we got some door prizes. Sorry, Rod, for moving around. We got some door prizes. So, as we all know, the world is changing rapidly. And things change, right? So 100 years ago, in the 1920s, what was the dairy cow's primary diet? For a knife. A good knife, not a cheap knife.
Dry hay.
Dry hay. That's one of them. What else did they eat?
Pasture.
Pasture. That's the two together. So give these two guys knives here. Working together as a team. Okay. When did the cows make the most milk?
June.
Spring. Spring, the spring flush, right? Okay, let's move up 50 years. 50 years ago. So that would be the 1970s. What were we feeding cows in the 1970s?
Hay and grain.
Okay, I got corn silage over here. You already got a knife. Grain, yeah, but we're talking about forages. What's the other primary forage we were feeding? You already got your knife, so quiet. What were we feeding? Most of you guys have been around, not everybody.
Corn and urea.
Corn and urea. Okay, what I'm looking for is more in the hay line, in particular alfalfa.
Or sweat tree oil.
Well, that would work too, a legume. Okay, and the corn silage brought the energy, right? So we were on a hay program that was, to feed a cow, you need about 16% protein or so, and grass hays tend to be pretty close to that. Pastures are actually higher than that. But corn silage is only 8% or so protein. So we needed a protein source, alfalfa. What came with the alfalfa when we grew the alfalfa, in addition to feed? Free nitrogen. Free nitrogen. He got his knife too. So if I miss somebody that's supposed to get a knife, raise your hand and say, I need a knife. So sorry about that.
I can use more water.
Okay, so let's move forward to the 1990s or so. Where were we at? What was starting to change in the forage world? Okay, I heard soybeans as a protein source. That's legit, but that's not a forage, so we're trying for forages. I think I heard winter annuals. Who said winter annuals? Okay, did you get a knife yet?
I have not gotten a knife yet.
He needs a knife because he should have been gotten a knife earlier. So winter annuals, okay. Yeah, so we started to add winter annuals. In particular, it started with rye, and then later we've had triticale come into the game, and some people do wheat, some people do barley, and down my way, not necessarily up here, oats, things like that. What did that bring to the diet from a nutritional perspective? Fiber, but digestible fiber, very digestible fiber. Okay, our problem with the corn and alfalfa program was the fiber quality was not good enough to really crank the forages in them. We could make up some of it through grain, but forages tend to be homegrown. That's where it's at. And by the way, number one farm cost on any sort of livestock farm, what's the number one cost? Feed. What's the definition of feed cost? Purchased and everything you do to grow them and store them. Okay? So
It's just the feed company bill. The rest,
no.
that's the fun part.
You got to contribute some of that to the seed costs and fertilizer and other stuff. I know. You're just playing with me now. So that's really the other thing that happened in the 1990s was we got a great diversification of styles of farms, anywhere from the beginning of real large farms to specialty farms, just different types of angles. So that was something that started. Now, today, where are we at? What are we trying to do? Forages.
You're trying to protect the soil.
Protect the soil?
Yeah.
Is it protect the soil or maybe even build the soil? Okay. What else are we trying to do? What are we trying to create on our farms?
Well, money eventually.
Money eventually, okay. Well, this is the way I look at it, and this is the goal of King's Agri-Seeds. So I came into King's Agri-Seeds in 2002, and our business was started in 1993, and I came on board as a technical person because it went from pretty much a small operation to all of a sudden we have dealers from Virginia to Maine. Okay, and by the way, we also have a company in the South, based in Rome, Georgia, that covers that quadrant of the United States. And we partner with a Midwest company that covers the Midwest in our strategies and marketing. So what are we really trying to do to make money through forages? And this is the way I like to frame what King's Agri-Seeds does. So we have tools. Remember when we talked about the corn silage? What does that bring? That brings the energy. Okay, well, corn is not corn anymore. We select for high fiber digestibility corns and high starch digestibility corns. And of course yield, because you can't feed snowballs. Okay, and we even have a Bmr corn now, a couple of them. So that's the corn side. Alfalfa side, obviously we want the most digestible alfalfa possible, but we also have these other legumes out there. It's funny you should say bird's foot trefoil. The seed's very, very, very tight in supply and very expensive, but the performance by putting a little bit of bird's foot trefoil, if you have the appropriate soils of livestock, is incredible. Red clover, another thing that's tight in supply, but really good performances with putting red clover in the right situations. So that's the protein side. And then we got the vegetative grass side. Remember when we talked about 100 years ago, when did the cows make the most milk in that time frame? It was in the spring pasture. Digestible grasses. Whether it be a perennial or an annual, what the vegetative grasses bring is essentially high digestibility, NDFDs in the 80s, somewhere around there. So it just really brings that to the equation. Now, that's the products. But here's what I learned working for Penn State doing my budget work. And since then, I can grow a crop for about the same price no matter what crop I grow. I mean, there's some subtle differences, but there's a lot of money in it no matter what. But it's putting together the system. It's about the system. Again, it doesn't matter what style you're in. It's about the system, and it's about the crop rotation, and it's about mixtures. So, you know, we're going to get more corn silage off of first year after a perennial mix than we will off of corn after corn after corn. It's a fact. We're going to get, after those perennials, we're going to get the free nitrogen. It's putting it together. And we don't want to grow straight anything unless it, like corn, I'm going to say, most likely we're going to grow straight corn. But once we get outside the corn, it's putting in the different biologies from the alfalfa, the clovers, the different grasses. In the case of that, it's perennial. But what about the annuals? It's about putting together combinations of annuals too. It's just not oats. It might be oats and a brassica and peas and that type of thing for a spring annual. For a summer annual, it might be sorghum sudan or forage sorghum mixed with other things, cowpeas and things like that. That biology brings your yields up. If your yields are up and it's digestible, guess what? That number one feed cost, that number one cost in the farm is shrinking. That's what it's about. And you're also creating windows of time to use that $1,000 ton manure by having these planned crop rotations for the type of farm system you have, the goals of that system, the soils that you have on that land. And you might have a set of soils that has a totally different crop system than a different set of soils. That's what it's about. And today, you're going to get pieces of what we're trying to put together through various speakers. But it's exciting. We got great opportunity to do good on the farm with increasing profitability. And, you know, King's Agri-Seeds, I forget even how many species we carry anymore, but I think we're pushing over 80 now. It's a lot of products that we have to pick for your individual farm. Now, you guys, maybe your neighbor, it might be appropriate to be similar to, maybe, but somebody in different soil types and different weather, you got to be doing something different. Thank you.